What is the longest you have gone without showering? I was a homeless drug addict / alcoholic for most of my late teens and early 20s. I probably went close to a year without showering at multiple points. I pretty much only showered when I got arrested. I remember one time, a girl let me use her shower and she was looking at me funny after. I asked her why and she said, "I thought you were Mexican." I'm not. A few weeks, because I broke my collarbone and couldn't. I had to fill the sink and do what my grandma called the whore's bath one-handed. And wash off my protective layer of dirt, no thank you. After seeing these replies I have decided not to respond. I work with a guy who told me he was doing dry January. Not the dry January you would think. He didn't bathe for a month just to see how it felt. For the first 3 weeks he was really itchy. The last week he said the itching stopped and the smell sort of subsided. The day he showered, he said it felt like he had the flu afterwards. 2 weeks. Military exercise. Stinky AF afterwards. 10 days, when I was 16. Backpacking in the Sierras with my dad. 2 weeks. I showered the first day my fiancé died. Tried again the following day and like the first I couldn't stop the tears and meltdown. So I stopped showering. About 2 weeks of gentle goading from friends didn't help till one marched through my front door and essentially threw me in there, haha. Nearly a month and I fucking stunk awful. A mixture of homelessness and heroin addiction and being at a defining low point in my life. Eventually I got into a hostel and as soon as I arrived I was pretty much ordered to go and bathe, shave, and when I was done they were going to give me a skinhead to start fresh. It took 4 lots of bath water, getting in soaping and cleaning just my arms and pits completely ruined the water and I swear I actually smelled worse than before the bath. It was like it had beaten off the first layer and fuck it was gross. Anyway, after about 3 hours of baths and blasting everything with the shower I was human again. The towels were taken out to a laundrette and my clothes were binned, even my trainers had to be binned and luckily a lad in the hostel had some I could borrow until my benefits got sorted. And getting the beard off was such a nightmare, took ages, and even after thinning it out with clippers I still went through 2 Mach 3 razor blades and loads of shaving gel. I cleaned the bathroom after and was so embarrassed by the state of it I put serious work into getting it hygienic for the others. They gave me some spare clothes and the haircut was great, couldn't really save it so I said just number 0 it all over. After half a day and a lot of effort I felt fantastic and looked completely different. But before the start I was absolutely disgusting, a mixture of horrendous body odor and cheese, and stale damp mold is about as close as I can explain it. That evening I had a hot meal followed by ice cream and a Coke, I then went to bed and slept for 2 days. That's me at my worst, I was 19 years old. 3 weeks. My wife and I lived in a rough situation where we got screwed out of owning our own land and house. Anyway. No hot water. And the water was off due to multiple leaks. We did not make enough to get it fixed, so we would go a week to 3 without showering. I'm so glad I can take them daily now. No power due to blizzard, no hot water, just a fireplace to keep warm, 8 days. 17 days at the National Training Center. U.S. Army training base that sends large units through realistic training in an austere environment. We went in June/August 2020 and went that long with just baby wipes after working 18 to 20-hour days outside in the desert. Everyone stunk equally. After a while, just dug through my bag and found the piece of clothing that stuck the least and put it back on. Backpacking trip, 10.5 days. Smell kinda leveled out after 3 days. Weeks probably. Depression pits suck. Edit. 1000 upvotes. Holy shit, all your comments are so kind, love you all, look after yourselves all of you. 8-day-long music festival, no running water or electricity. Baby wipes was all we had. Nearly 3 weeks. First 3 weeks when Russians invaded Ukraine. That was hard days. Not because I was smelling, but because I understood that I could die anytime. Depression, I went months. Was inpatient in the hospital for almost a month. A month in Afghanistan. We were out of water because the civilians who brought our water trucks got executed. So no water for showers. Hand sanitizer, with credit cards to scrape off the dirt. Edit, I put this in a reply earlier for context, edited for visibility for those who are interested. Willing to explain if something isn't clear, it was a pretty interesting period of time. We had a tiny little compound in the middle of the valley. Imagine the refinery from Road Warrior, the 1981 film. The water trucks were 18-wheelers coming into the valley. We were supposed to know when they were coming, so we could go out as far as possible to escort them in. Well, we didn't get told about this delivery for whatever reason. We found out something was wrong when we saw the smoke from the burning trucks. It was a couple of hours on foot from the base. When we got there, they were all burned out, tires melted down, flames. Rubber streaks, I guess at least one needed to brake hard. We found what happened to the drivers. They had been dragged out and shot in the head. Brains on the ground. It turns out bees like brains. We never found the bodies. That might have been the last time anyone other than us tried to use the road. I know at one point a sergeant major decided it wasn't a big risk, so he led a convoy to our base. Anyways, he's in a wheelchair now. My buddy was his driver, will walk with a cane for life. I don't remember if that was before or after the water trucks. Anyways, it was a month of almost no water, 2 little bottles a day. As the year went on, we got more supplies by helicopter. The situation never got better. Earlier in the year we were able to sometimes push out to a larger base for food and showers and haircuts. Those sorts of trips stopped being possible. I made it home that year, a day after Christmas. Missed it by that close. It was something shocking. I was in combat one day, 96 hours later I was in Walmart doing that stupid scene from the movies where you can't handle the cereal aisle. Turns out that shit is actually real. So I'm pretty sure that was absolutely the last civilian convoy, and possibly the last successful military convoy, into our valley. We could still move about pretty well on foot, but vehicle traffic was finished. The unit that relieved us in December tried to come in a convoy, by ground. They hit an IED big enough to park a HMMWV in the crater. Another case of us not getting told, so we weren't able to go out and escort them. Anyways, we got relieved and went home. The guys who took our command post, Cop Apache, they had their first fatality within a week of arrival. They simply weren't prepared for the level of things in the valley. We had gotten pretty good at handling it, but they were completely fresh and never stood a chance. Anyways, they held the valley for 4 more months and then gave it up. We had this tiny little op, a fortified series of buildings a couple of miles from the main base. 2 years after our experiences at that op, Extortion 17 was shot down around a kilometer from that op. But, that's how things happened on that deployment. When I was a kid, there would be times in the summer when I'd just go swimming every day and wouldn't take an actual shower for like a week. Probably 5 to 7 days at most, either due to depression or laziness. Weeks, maybe a month. Bipolar depression sure is fun. Grew up in a heroin den, hygiene was not taught to me at all. I shower once a week, more if I appear to be dirty. I'm working on it. Just started brushing my teeth every day. My dad died in 2016 when I was 20 years old and I accidentally went 10 or 11 days without showering. If I wasn't busy making arrangements or picking up pieces of his life, I was too distraught to care about showering. I finally showered when it came time for his memorial and it felt good to wash some of the sadness away. A week. Boy Scouts camping trip, and those showers were so filthy I didn't even want to take one. I'm not a super outdoors person and I had a terrible time and I got sick afterwards. Thumbs up, medium skin tone. 1 month. Maybe 4 months. Maybe more. Probably like 6 months as the longest time. Why? Was I homeless? No. Did I have access to a shower? Yes. So why not? Because I was sad, pensive face, the depresso espresso. A week. I am autistic and I used to only shower once a week because I hated it. 2 months. Major depressive episode during a very stressful time, family deaths, health issues abound, plus mental health failing in general due to incorrect medication. I did wipe down my most stinky bits with baby wipes or washcloths plus soap at least. But showering was way above what I could manage at the time. To the point I even shaved my head to avoid dealing with gross hair. After reading the replies, I'm just gonna say a lot. Depression sucks and can be mega gross. Embarrassing to admit, and know that I clean myself extra and more than just daily, probably beyond my own good, but I went on an experiment where I just didn't shower for 30 days, still washed when and where it mattered but no shower, so things like arms or back weren't washed, clothes change and whatnot, sure. It was to test how well my body took care of itself since I have dry skin and eczema, so washing and applying cream didn't always work best, it actually often made it worse. Interestingly, my skin actually stopped being so dry. It somehow took care of itself and reduced dryness, as opposed to when I was washing every day and applying moisturizer, etc. Regardless, I'm never trying that again. There's also the risk of body fungal infection, I think, which I might have been lucky to avoid. 3 months in the woods. 2 weeks due to depression. I jotted it down in my journal. But, I possess about 16 washcloths and use them daily and change my underwear, apply deodorant when I go out. But I hate my shower pressure, new Shariat, and I am losing my hair due to female pattern baldness and gobs come out. I used to take a shower every day to flatten my uber curly hair and start all over from wet to dry. But now, I can't stand being wet, and have to force myself to get in one. That was more than 10 years ago. 3 weeks without shower, under the sheet, the lowest I have been. I was lying in bed struggling with depression, fears, dullness, inability to do anything, had weak relationships with family and weird situation with friends, drinking water and eating stale food. At some point I could not bear it anymore and went to the psychiatrist. This decision turned everything, that is why I am here writing silly posts on Reddit. I will be thankful until my very end to this guy, smiley face, mind is weird. I went a whole week without showering when my baby was just a newborn. Maybe a little longer. Since high school, probably a week after having surgery. The most recent time I went 2 or 3 days without showering due to hand surgery. I felt so gross. To put it in perspective, I showered last night and not this morning, and I feel absolutely disgusting right now. 2 months. Horrific depression. Much better now for over a decade. However long Ramadan is, Taliban cut power to our fob, no running water till they turned it back on afterwards. Maybe 4 to 5 days. I was 7 months pregnant and had just lost the baby. I was so deep in grief I didn't even think shower. My husband finally carried me to the bathtub and bathed me. 36 days while stranded on an island.